All right, hello, and welcome to the third Agency Access Hangouts. Today's presentation is actually extra special because we're joined today by creative consultant Jennifer Kilberg with Agency Access.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
And we're also joined by Selina Maitreya, which is a name I'm sure a lot of you will recognize.
I'm glad to be here. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, really stoked that you guys are able to join us because, you know, you both see this change happening in the industry and you really felt the need to share it with the photographic community. So thank you very much for coming on here. Before we jump into things, I just wanted to mention that everybody can use the question and answer app in Google Plus if you have any questions for Jen and Selina, and they're going to do their best to answer as many as they can, you know, when the hangout is over. So you can also send in any questions via Twitter or Facebook, and we'll see how many we can get to. So let's kick things off a little bit. So today we're here to discuss this this shift you guys see happening in the photographic community, right?
Totally. We're absolutely seeing a new paradigm, you know, as far as marketing and selling your work.
It's definitely out there. It's been there for a while. It's settled in. But before we can really discuss what's been happening, we want to lay a little bit of groundwork for you so that you can understand what the old selling paradigm used to be.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys have obviously been big players in the industry for a while now. Let's touch a little bit on how things used to be, say, 5 years ago.
Well, what would happen 5 years ago, the old selling paradigm, is that photographers were generalists. They shot lots of different types of work for a small group of clients who would hire them over and over.
Yeah, and you know, as we know too, we are technicians now, but you know, photographers needed the ability to be technicians as well as able to shoot across, you know, all different multiple platforms.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, there were these generalists, and for a long time the industry operated in this way. And then, you know, this kind of change happened with the rise of digital technology. I'm sure that probably played a big role in this shift you guys are seeing.
Well, digital was one of the aspects, Nick, that really brought about a change. But there were several aspects for sure. One of them certainly was digital because what it did is it opened up the whole market to photographers or people who weren't truly trained as photographers. And so what happened from a buyer's perspective, and we need to keep our buyer's perspective in mind, is it flooded the market with photographers, people who call themselves photographers.
Yeah, totally. Well, it wasn't just that too. I mean, we saw, you know, of course, excellent visuals via the stock industry, which raised the bar tremendously on assignment work, and also corporate branding, and also, you know, through social media. We're seeing, you know, corporate branding, big brands are branding themselves through different applications now, from Instagram to, you know, we have Twitter brands. It's across the board in all disciplines.
Yeah, and there was also a shift. So we've got so far, we've got digital as a reason and all the photographers flooding, and we've got, as Jen just said, corporate branding. We also have the fact that the companies themselves started to staff differently. Years ago, in the old selling paradigm, photographers sold to creatives, to arts directors, to graphic designers, right to the photo editors, because this change is in every single discipline. Now, photographers are very often not selling to creatives on the client side. So there's this whole level of communication. It's kind of like the game of telephone just got larger.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't just digital. It wasn't just corporate branding. It wasn't just the way that the companies changed their internal structure. It was sort of like a whole lot of things that led to this transformation. So what did the industry transform into? I mean, how do you see things now, and how can a professional photographer take your observations into account when they're looking at how they present their own work?
Well, the new selling paradigm is that the generalist photographer is generally not going to be successful because it's a vision-based approach. Clients are looking for photographers who have bodies of work. They want a very specific feel to a very specific type of work.
Yeah, I would even say that, you know, being a photographer now, it's a given. Like, you have to have good technical skills. You have to have the ability to interact with your subject, whether it's a still life or a human model or anything like that. So really, at this point, to me, like Selina's saying, you know, it's the most important part is your visual approach. So, you know, clients and producers and editors are seeing the value in vision-based portfolios and having a vision-based brand.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So there's two questions now that every photographer needs to begin to work towards answering. And the first is the one that photographers almost always can answer. What do I shoot? Do I shoot food? Do I shoot lifestyle? Do I shoot portrait? But now, the second question is equally important to buyers. And that is, what is my visual approach? And we thought, Jen and I, that it might be really good to take you now to show you, because you're photographers, visual is everything, to show you the work of a photographer who's already put this in place. So if you'd like to follow along now and go online, or either mark this for later, we're going to go over to Dan Root's website. Really quickly take a look at some of his work. It's D as in Dan, Root, R-O-O-T, photo, P-H-O-T-O.com. That's drootphoto.com.
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat box for people too, so the URL should be right there.
Great, Nick. Thank you. So give you a second to get over there. I'd like you to go to a very specific place. Dan, what I'd like you to notice is Dan is what we would have about a year or so ago, 2 years maybe, called a lifestyle photographer. But even lifestyle has gotten really defined, not just by the kind of lifestyle, but the look and the feel. So Dan has really defined himself as a different view of sport. He shoots the culture around the lifestyle. So if you'll go with me to go to Win, Draw, and Lose, which is a few galleries down, and just breeze through quickly, as buyers will breeze through quickly, the first couple of shots. And you'll see that in this body of work, Dan really covers the feeling of what happens out there, the feeling of camaraderie, the feeling of emotion. He has a very specific look that he's worked very hard. His color looks consistent. It's very graphic. And what happens is that as you go through the gallery, you'll see that Dan has a very, very consistent look that he's then, and you can check this out later, that he's then applied to different types of sports and different types of lifestyles around sports. So he's the culture-based photographer. And when Nike and Adidas, they're not looking for action maybe, even though he's got action, they're not looking for just portraiture. They're looking to get the feel, the culture. They're going to come to Dan.
Thank you, Selina. Yes, I totally agree. And like Selina was saying, you know, with lifestyle photography now, we see things that we saw as a specialty, and it was a general specialty, and we would just use the term lifestyle. Well, now lifestyle is breaking down into, you know, urban lifestyle or hip-hop lifestyle or senior lifestyle or tweens or teens, and we're seeing that across all specialties. If you think about, you know, even the wedding industry, and you think about wedding photographers, you used to see, you know, wedding photographers shooting a wedding. Now it's, you know, the journalist wedding or the black and white wedding or the more candid, you know, approaches that people are liking for styles. So across the board, people are buying into specific visions and specifics even within those specialties.
Yeah, I mean, I almost see this as sort of like a response to iPhotography. You know, with people taking photos with their smartphone, everybody thinks that they're a photographer, and professional photographers really need a way to distinguish themselves and say, you know, yes, I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing, and this, I have a style here, as opposed to these iPhotographers. Would you agree?
Absolutely, because what we're talking about here is no longer selling individual photographs. We're selling bodies of work. We're selling defined visions. And your vision, and this is something that's really liberating for a lot of photographers to hear. So listen up. Your vision doesn't need to be unique to the world, but it needs to be unique to you. It needs to be authentic to you, and that requires a lot of work. So Nick, your comment is really right on, because people who are new to the industry, and we were all new once, but people who are new to the industry aren't going to have a deep body of work. Professional photographers who've taken the time to understand what the market needs and to define their body of work, not just the kind of work they do, but the feel for it, they're going to definitely distinguish themselves from even other professional photographers that haven't taken this step.
Yeah, and this is a very liberating time, because being able to shoot things that is based on your vision, like Selina's saying, and the things that you really like, and finding that discovery, you know, that place that we used to have that opportunity to be able to go out, if you went to art school, and shoot what you want and create what you want and reflect and critique, you know, a lot of times with our busy schedules and all the things that we have going on, we're not actually hyper-focusing on what we want, what is our vision, and how can we create that. So, you know, Selina and I wouldn't be doing this today if we didn't obviously believe in it, but I think it's also important that you guys realize that it's not just us that it's believing it. So wanted to read you a quote from a very well-respected senior art producer, Shannon McMullen from GSD&M, and this is what she wrote. So this is a perspective from a buyer. And excuse me as I read this, I can't memorize all of this. As we know, the industry is very competitive. Therefore, photographers need to set themselves apart and stand out by having their own focused vision and/or style. Otherwise, they will just get lost in the world of photography and make it much harder to get work or to be remembered. When a photographer doesn't have a clear vision, then potential clients won't have the confirmation that will consistently produce quality work. Clients have high expectations, so photographers need to market themselves with a focused vision, as it's not always something about the work, but about the person. I also feel the photographer hires, whether it's a wardrobe stylist, hair, makeup, producer, location scout, etc., can set them apart, as they all help the photographer bring their vision together. So, you know, that's just another perspective of somebody that's hiring, and again, we're seeing it across the board, whether it's editorial, whether it's advertising, whether it's direct to client. This is not just one specific niche within our industry. This is across the board in all disciplines.
It's also, Jen, that's an excellent point, because very often when we talk about changes in the industry, something especially around visual, photographers think, well, that's just an advertising. It's not. It's also not just in major metropolitan areas. It's everywhere, because there's almost no such thing as a local market anymore, because the whole stock industry has released a whole lot of potential assignment work. So the whole bar has been raised so high that, as Jen said, it's an exciting time, because you know what clients are asking for? They're asking you for, as she mentioned to us a moment ago, they're asking for that vision that you started exploring and working on when you came to photography, however you got here. They're asking for your visual point of view.
And like Selina was saying, totally, and it's also happening in your social media. You know, I'm working with clients on just even from a regular consulting basis, and we're going in and starting to look at their Instagram accounts and editing their Instagram accounts, because that's becoming such a vehicle that's also part of your brand. And that might have a little bit of a different spin on what that visual brand is versus what your commercial visual brand is. It might be a little looser, you know, but again, we're looking for a cohesion and a vision within that area of your work. So even when you're thinking about your social media as a photographer, it's important to apply the same things as your commercial work and having a vision-based portfolio for your actual portfolio and your website, but it's also important to make sure you're translating that into the other platforms.
Well, you know what's so interesting, Jennifer, is that years ago, remember how there used to be commercial work and personal work? Well, now your commercial work has to have a personal vision to it. So there's almost, you can have, your personal work is different now, and your personal work is built into your commercial vision. So that's the merge that's taking place here. You have to show up as a person, as an artist, in your commercial work more than ever, and that's where the vision comes in.
And I think, you know, Selina and I talk a lot of, we both care about each other as people, and we, part of what we're both about is being real. And I think that the whole thing, that whole word authentic, you know, it's been such a trendy word, but it's a trendy word because it's so relevant, and people want things that are real. They want to feel and know who you are. We're so flooded in the media every day now with so much imagery from every different discipline that what is going to make you stand out is what's unique and what is you and what is real.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head. So, I mean, it's not just about taking a great photo anymore. You know, you need to build your entire body of work around this visual approach or this vision that you're talking about. So, I mean, it sounds like a process. How does somebody go about, like, delving into this, like, vision-based portfolio?
Well, it's not exactly the most simple process, but we're definitely going to give you some steps to make it easier to break down. So there's pretty much three steps. So you want to discover and articulate what is your visual approach. You accomplish this by a tear sheet exercise. So you work with the consultant that guides you through a tear sheet exercise that helps you see what is it that you're attracted to. What are you seeing out in whether it's editorials or advertising, what are you seeing that's published work? What are you seeing that's work on the web that really feeds your soul, the work that you really want to be doing in the next 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 years? So we start with this discovery process of really having you go out there, look in the industry, pull, and start to see what you are attracted to today. Because what you were attracted to, you know, 5 years ago might be very different to what you're attracted to today. So that's the first step, is really getting in, being guided by a consultant, and working together on this tear sheet exercise.
And don't think that it's a tear sheet exercise, but very often when I mention tear sheet exercise, as Jennifer just did, photographers say, well, you know what, I'm always looking at tear sheets, which is great. We're all magazine junkies, right? We love it. That's why we're in this business. That's a different process. This is a very specific exercise that helps us as consultants to articulate. We examine. Once you do the tear sheet exercise, we examine. We know how to articulate and examine, how to explore rather, and examine what's going on, the consistencies in all of the selections you've made, and then we can articulate them to you. So that's the first half of step one. Step two is to create a positioning statement. This is the statement that defines not only what you shoot, which is probably easy for you to do, but the harder part that you probably can't do. What is your visual approach? How do we articulate your visual approach? It's an incredibly exciting time when clients get to that point. It's as if they have the biggest aha moment that they've ever had.
Yeah, the positioning statement's fun. It's not like a long 5-page you know, written explanation. It's a small paragraph that communicates what your visual style is, and you work with a consultant to help you really extract the proper verbiage of what it is that you're seeing, so then you can own that. Then the next step of the process is the edit process. So what we do is we use this positioning statement to guide you through looking at your existing work. So what do you have out of your archives? What do you have out of your website that really speaks this language? So we go through, and sometimes I'll have clients that will say to me, oh, you know what? This is what I used to do like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Let me go back and pull some of this stuff. And I'm going back to, you know, my roots. This is what I started in. This is what I actually really love. And this is what I want to go back to. So we'll go back, and, you know, some images are timeless and some might look dated, and we have to, you know, re-edit them. So sometimes we have a lot of images. Sometimes we only have, you know, 5 images. But at this point, we're editing your existing work to see what you have that supports that positioning statement that we wrote.
Which is a whole new edit that most photographers are used to. They're usually used to, well, does this one work? Does that one work? Just arbitrarily, just what looks like the best. But now we're getting down to the authenticity of your statement, the edit, and then the end of part 2 is once we've done the edit, we know how many images we have, we know how many images we need to what? To complete the body of work. And so that's the end of step 2.
And then, surprise, surprise, what is step 3? We actually have to decide at that point, you know, how far are we away? Are we a hop, are we a skip, or are we a jump away from having a vision-based portfolio? So what I mean by that is, you know, do we need 3 months worth of shooting? Do we need 6 months worth of shooting? So we start to concept the ideas and start to shoot to fill in the gaps to build this vision-based portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, those are really great steps, and I hope people are taking notes. If not, there'll be a recorded version of this webinar on our YouTube channel shortly, so you can revisit them and obviously learn some stuff. It sounds like it's a lot of work. I mean, how hard is this for a single photographer to undertake by themselves?
Well, it's possible, but it's difficult. And I've had clients come to me and try this out and make certain steps. But what's tough is you're inside your own process. So if you look at the 3 steps, the tear sheet exercise, you can certainly pull tear sheets that represent the kind of work, as Jen said, that you'd kill to do in 3 to 5 years, 1 to 3 years. But being able to examine them, understand the consistencies that you take for granted, and articulate them into a positioning statement might be tough. Same thing with the edit. I don't know any photographer that's ever been able to edit their own work. Everybody always shares with me, my clients, Jen, I'm sure you've gone through this too, that they're their own worst editors. So editing is a tough spot. And then when you get to stage 3 is fabulous. When you're shooting new images that are all about the vision that you have, it's scary, it's exciting, it's work, and you need accountability. You need to have somebody who's got the overall perspective of the project, because there's you, there's the consultant, or there's you and there's your book, but it's hard for you to keep the book and to separate it from you. And the job of the consultant is to have the overarching perspective of the book. The final vision is what we're all aiming for. So having the consultant along is a huge asset. It's possible to do on your own, but it's also great, my clients tell me, and Jen, I'm sure you get this all the time too, to have a partner in crime, to have somebody there that they can be excited with, they can create with, and who'll keep them accountable.
Yeah, totally, Selina. I mean, it's hard to have that discipline. Like I was saying back, you know, I actually ended up going to art school in part of my journeys, but not every photographer has to go to school to be a photographer. But I remember the best part about it was, you know, being able to have these projects and concept these projects and then gain feedback and have that, you know, open forum where we could critique each other's work and ultimately, you know, become better from it, grow from it, and produce stuff that we're psyched about. And I think that, you know, the biggest thing about this process is that Selina said it before, it's yours, right? So by you making that commitment to create something that you believe in, that you're fresh, that you're excited about, gives you the confidence to really go out there and then sell it. So one of my favorite phrases, and if you know me well, I probably have said it to you, is that you will possess contagious enthusiasm. And when you have that enthusiasm and you feel that excitement with the work that you're creating and the work that you're producing, then you want to get out there and you want people to see it. So when you have that opportunity to build something that feels cohesive, that has a vision, that you're proud of, then ultimately that translates to the people that you're showing it to. And as Selina mentioned earlier, you know, it is a very personal, work-driven business now. Personal projects are used for social media, they're used for blogs, they're used for special promos, they're used for all different types of things that you're putting out there in your marketing efforts. They're used for as a separate category on your iPad when you're going in and you're meeting with people. They're conversational pieces. They're building relationships, and ultimately that's what we're trying to do in this business, is build relationships, create an engagement, so then we are remembered and people want to work with us because they like us or they remember us and they know our vision. So that's part of why creating these vision-based portfolios and going through the process of yourself to really understand what is that? What is it that makes me unique? What is it that means something to me?
And you know, Jen, you hit on something that is so critical. You work on not only talent-based, but you work with photographers on marketing, as do I. And you know, one of the, historically, what keeps happening is when I meet with a photographer who isn't marketing and they know they should, or we do lectures and photographers will come to the lectures and say, oh, well, you know I should be out there, but I'm not. When I sit down with a photographer and we examine what they're doing, 9 times out of 10, the reason they're not out there selling is because somewhere deep inside they know they don't have a body of work that's going to sell. And so they're not conscious of it. And when I point that out to them and I say, well, you know what, I could put marketing steps in place, but you're kind of throwing your money out the door because buyers now want vision and you don't have a body of work. You have some nice images and some images that really we could edit out, but you don't have a body of work that's going to sell. And that's what we need. And so that really becomes apparent to them, and they're very liberated, and they love the concept that there's an answer to why they haven't been selling in the first place.
Totally. I have clients that you're so right, because it'll be sometimes a situation of like, there's not that excitement because they haven't produced anything new, or they have produced new stuff but it's not for their portfolio, or they're working a lot but it's not imagery that they would ever show to their clients, or you know, they have some stuff but it's not really what they really want to be doing. So it's this whole process, yeah, of having work, but if it's not work that you really want to be doing, or it's not work that you're really wanting to attract, then we need to make sure that you have ultimately the work that you want to be attracting and the work that you want to be doing.
And the bottom line is that it's not about choice anymore. You know, for the reason we're doing this seminar now is because this paradigm has been in place in different places, in different parts of our industry, excuse me, different parts of our industry over the last couple of years. But now it is solid there across the board. The people I'm seeing who are working, who are making money, and photographers ask all the time, what do I have to do? What are people doing who are making money? It's not just their marketing. It's their body of work. So that's why we're here, because we know that this is the time when you've really got to understand that you need a product that's going to sell. Your vision is your product, and if your vision isn't expressed in a body of work on your website, in a print book, it doesn't matter what your marketing looks like, because you're ultimately not going to have what clients want. And the photographers who are successful, they've done this. They understand this, they work towards this, they put this in place. And we want you to be one of them. We want you to understand what you need. As consultants, we care. That's why we've been in this business for so long. And that's why it's critical that you have this information now and you act on it.
Yeah, and not only do we care, but we want the benefits. We want you guys to have success. And, you know, I do another seminar, and one of the questions I always pose is, you know, what does success mean to you? Success means many different things to many different people, right? But really the core of it is probably getting a job based on your book, you know, having actual tangible things that you can assess to it. Now, there's many other forms of success that happen in order to ultimately, you know, start to get that job. But I got to be honest, I've done this product. I'm a very real person. I say it like it is, and I am fortunate to have seen a client that I worked with over 6 months. We worked on this portfolio build, and then ultimately he ended up landing a job with his dream client, which was Levi's. So I can't sit here, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, do this, do this, do that, and not see that clients are actually getting work from the people that they want to work for from this process, you know. So with all that, with understanding the industry, with understanding us, with understanding outsiders with this, Agency AXS launched and is just launching a new program called the Portfolio Build Program, which will help do exactly what we spoke about and take you through the steps if that is something of your interest.
Yeah, definitely. It just launched a few weeks ago, and you know, everybody is really excited about it in the office. And it is kind of an intensive thing, because it's you know, sort of like you're developing this vision. I think they're only taking a few clients a month because it is so intensive. But I mean, you guys have been working on developing it, and yeah, I think people are really excited about it.
Yeah, we're only taking about, I think it's 5 clients per month, and the reason is that, as you can see, it's a program that is pretty intensive. We want to make sure that we can give you all the time that's allocated and that focused attention that everybody needs to be guided through this process. And there's different things. When you're starting to concept your shoots, for me at least as a previous producer, we want to talk about all the production that goes involved in it. We want to make sure that it's a thoughtful process and that the time that you're putting in and the things that you're shooting work to create this cohesive vision.
Yeah, definitely.
It's also a lot of fun.
And that's the most important thing, is that I think
it's a lot of fun.
It's short not to have fun, right?
Yeah, clients love it. And, Jen, I got to keep going back to what it just tugs me, because I love what you said, and I see this over and over and over. Clients get reinvested in why they were in photography. They do. When they're able to, each step of the process, when they go through the tear sheet assignment, and you get them to the place where you get that positioning statement. It's like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. I love this. This is what I want to do. And then they see that in the edit that they have examples of it. Then they understand that they're already along the way. And then when they start to concept shots, it's truly exciting. And then when the shots are there and they start to see it all come together as you paginate so beautifully for them, it's just an exciting process, and it invests people so that by the time the selling comes around, they can't wait to get out the door and get their portfolios in front of people.
And I'm sure that you feel the same way, Selina. I don't think it's just the clients. I am most excited about this. I think for me it's the most liberating too, because there's structure, but there's no structure. And we're going into the heart of trying to figure out, like, what is it that really makes you tick? What is it that makes you unique? And working on a more creative level with our clients to be able to concept things and then ultimately have something that you're proud of. Like, to me, that's rewarding. I need to see things visually come together. And when we see the start of where we are and then we see the end of where we are, it's like this visual connection of having visual, tangible results.
I say next to having my boys, Jennifer, it's like the best thing, and everybody else is listening. Next to having my 2 boys, it's the most fun. It's because you get to see, as you just said, you get to see the results. So it's a very organic, it's a very magical, it's a doable process. I think very often when I talk to photographers about this process, and understandably so, there's a little bit of a concern, like, can I do it? Do I really have a vision? Well, I don't know any time I've taken this process up and there hasn't been a vision there. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, this is great, but I don't know, you're getting a little uncomfortable because it feels really big, or you think you don't have a vision, just hold the trust, because Jen and I have been at this for a very long time. You put our years together, it's probably longer than the 2 of us have been on this planet, and there's not a person who listening, I guarantee you, who would want to undertake this and doesn't have a vision. It's a matter of unearthing it.
Well, I got carded the other day, so I guess I look...
Well, you're a lot younger than me.
If I look 21, that's awesome, man. Or under 21, that is. But I'm not.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely really, really great info, and obviously, I'd love to keep talking all day with you guys because you're just so inspirational and it's almost infectious. But unfortunately, we do have to start winding down, and I wanted to leave some room for questions that came in via Twitter. So if you guys don't mind, we can jump right into a few questions and answers.
Sure thing.
All right. Let's see. Let's pick a good one. All right. Here's one. I guess maybe Selina can go first, and then maybe Jen can take the next one. So here's one from Mark T. I'm a commercial photographer. How many images are appropriate for this new style portfolio?
Oh, it's a really good question. What we're talking about, Mark, is we're talking about developing enough images within the vision to be able to have what I call applications. In each vision, you'll have different places that you want to go to show clients how the vision works. For instance, when you look at Dan Root's portfolio later online, you'll see that he shoots people in the landscape. He also shoots portraits. He also shoots moments and emotion. So he wants to be able to show that, but he wants to show it through different situations, which is why he has his different groups. So the short answer would be somewhere between 25 and 35 images in a body of work for the web. And then we can look, you look more individually, a little less for a print book possibly. It varies photographer by photographer, but you need enough to build trust in buyers. And so I'd say somewhere around 25 to 35, making sure they're all applications of the vision in one way or another. We don't believe in, there's no such thing in this process as stuff shots. You know, shots you just kind of throw in. We don't throw in anything. Everything is very sculpted.
All right. All right. So here's one for Jennifer from Michelle J. Could you speak a little bit about how illustrators can use this information?
Sure thing. So, you know, it's the same application to me for an illustrator as it is for a photographer, for a director, for anybody in this creative discipline. And basically, from an illustrator, you know, what makes you unique as an illustrator? Is it the fact that you work with big, graphic, bold color palettes? Is it the fact that, you know, most of your work from a style standpoint is done with, you know, variation in line? What are we trying to attract? Who are we trying to go after? And what specific is your style? So, you know, if you're a children's illustrator, and we're trying to build a body of work to go after book publishers that primarily focus within the youth market, and you're an illustrator, so we want to make sure that we do the work, we figure out what it is, we figure out who we're marketing to, then we have a body of work, like Selina said. You know, generally, illustrators, it takes a little bit longer from an illustrative perspective. So I look at probably more along the lines of 20 to 25 solid images that have a very strong visual voice, where photographers I might look at a little bit more from a portfolio standpoint. So it's the same process. We have to define the vision, we have to make sure we have the work that supports it, and then we have to make sure that we have a plan to get it out to the right people.
All right.
Thank you, Michelle. That was a good question as well. And I'm sorry that we didn't mention illustrators, but like I said, it's a universal language across all creative disciplines.
Sure. All right. All right. Well, this next one will be a toss-up, so whoever wants to take it, you can speak up. Let's see. So this is from a John P., and he says, if I'm taking this new vision-based path, do my older images still have value? Should I delete them from my website? John P.
You want to start, Selina, and then I'll kick in?
Go ahead. No, go ahead, darling. You take it.
So, you know, do the older images work? Well, to support the vision. Is that what you said, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, John, you know, that's a good question. That comes down in our edit process of the program, where we go back, we look at the work that you have that's existing, whether it's on your website like we looked before, whether it's in your archives. It has to speak and be supported through that positioning statement. It has to look current. There has to be certain production value of the images depending on what that positioning statement is that we established. Then we will know if that work is applicable. You know, the first thing, if anything looks dated, I'm not open to incorporating it into anything, regardless if it's the vision or not. You know, certain fashion things, certain technology things. If I'm seeing a picture of, you know, a phone from 5 years ago, or a laptop, or you know, different things that date themselves, like shoes date themselves very easily. There's certain trends with shoes that always happen. Glasses and like I said, technology. These are all things that date themselves very quickly. So we want to make sure that it's current. We want to make sure that it supports that positioning statement. So I guess it's kind of a longer-winded answer to your question. It depends. It's all circumstantial. We need to look at it. We need to make sure that it supports.
Okay. Great answer.
Thank you.
Let's go to a question that just came in through Facebook, actually. So this is from Jerry M., who's a photographer. Excuse me. Jerry says, I'm a lower tier shooter, and I'm afraid in a smaller market, if I don't show a range of abilities, I may not get hired for the bread and butter. I have no doubt that it'll be fun to create the portfolio, but at my level, I don't see it. Is it viable?
I think that's an excellent question. Jerry, I would ask how long you're shooting, and I would ask how far afield you're marketing. There are very few photographers who can afford to market locally, and when you're not marketing locally at every level, clients buy up. So this has been historic. When clients want something on white seamless, because there are so many still life shooters now who are looking for work. The people who want something on seamless, they're looking at still life shooters. They're looking at people who have beautiful still life books, even if they want something on seamless. So keeping in mind that clients always buy up, and keeping in mind that photographers are marketing into even small cities, but where I came from, Boston was not a major city. Phoenix, Cincinnati, Kansas City. I've got photographers from Europe marketing into those places, and they're doing it with talent-based books. So photographers, clients rather, at every level are expecting a certain type of work, and they're looking to buy up. So even if you're looking for what you're calling lower end work, my advice to you is start looking at what your vision is, because then you're offering clients more value, and you're offering them what they want, and you're preparing yourself to move forward out of that lower tier work in order to get work that is more creative and will move you forward. Because if you've just entered the market and that's why you're at the level that you've described, you're going to be wanting to move yourself forward, and the only way you can do that is with a talent-based portfolio, a vision-based book.
All right, great. All right, this next one sounds maybe like a Jennifer question. It comes from YouTube, actually, from a Diane M. Can you give some quick tips on getting the right people to look at this finished group of images?
Sure. Diane, that's really, based on from a marketing approach, and you have to have a marketing plan. So the first thing, obviously, that we're working on is defining that market. Who is this going to attract? And part of that positioning statement, we establish the market that we are actually going after to show this work to. So, first we have to establish who the market is, and then we need a plan. Nowadays there's many different channels of marketing. When I say many, it's not hundreds, maybe 10, 12. So if we have 10, 12 different channels of marketing, then I personally feel that you have to do at least 3 or 4 of those channels to really be effective and get your work out there and let people see and learn who you are and what you do. So as we know, marketing is based on consistency, but in my opinion, there's also something that distinguishes one photographer from another. And it's not your ability just to take a good picture. It's 2 things. One, it's your ability to build a relationship. And that's what I try to work on, is helping guide my clients on making sure that you're engaging people on a personal level, that you're hitting people through multiple channels. You're building this repetition, you're building this trust, like Selina said, but you're also knowing who you're marketing to. So to answer your question specifically, there's 10 different channels. I think if you go into the lab, I might have written a blog post on that, or I'm sure there's other materials on there. I don't have the time to go through all the channels because I do it as a whole nother seminar. But just remember, you want to be consistent, you want to build relationships, and you want to do multiple channels of marketing.
Yeah.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Yeah, please.
Where Jennifer started on that was really brilliant. It's no longer about just marketing. It's about knowing that you're marketing to the people that are going to buy this specific vision. And so as Jennifer said, that second part of the positioning statement is the conversation with the consultant about identifying 3 to 5 markets, so you know that this is not a vanity book. This is not, we're asking you to take this time, effort, and financial investment to create a book that's just going to be a vanity book. This is a book that's going to sell. And that's where your marketing plan begins, by having a book. And as Jennifer said about starting that conversation, starting that personal relationship, what better place to do that than to start it with a body of work where clients look at this, and they do, and they will, and they'll go, oh my God, every image, they get it right away, what you do, and they know that you understand the language of the industry, you understand what that you're seeing directly. We talk in selling about meeting clients' needs. Well, this is the biggest need clients have. So when you show up with that finished book, you almost don't have to say anything because they get the fact that you are a pro, because you've done this work. You know how to meet their needs. You're already showing them.
Yeah, and like we mentioned before, I mean, it really depends on your market. It could be a book based more geared towards editorial. It could be a book geared more towards advertising or wedding or business to business. You know, you just really have to understand who are you, because you're not everyone. Nor do we want you to be everyone. We just want you to be you and unique.
And you know, another piece of the question that came in before was that Jerry, Nick, who talked about working at entry-level assignments. The other thing, Nick, that came up that I'd like to share on that is the fact that the old paradigm was that you had to shoot lots of things. And photographers are still functioning on that, thinking of even in a local market on that level, if I don't offer a variety, then I'm really going to be losing jobs. And I have to tell you quite honestly, that's a false belief. It no longer rings true. And so what I say to photographers is, you know what, it's kind of like you're going from dating to getting married. When you date, you can date lots of different people, and there's a benefit there. But when you choose somebody as a partner, you know, married or not, when you choose them as a partner, that person becomes your focus, and you build something very deeply there. And are you letting go all the attractive people that are coming and going? Absolutely, but you gain so much more. It's what art photographers do. They spend years on a project. We're not asking you to spend years, it's just months. But they spend years on a project, and the more they spend on it, the better they get. So you're investing your talent, and it's really, truly a false belief to think that you're going to lose work, because you're really going to lose work if you don't define your work, because your book isn't going to be published.
Yeah, really, really great answers. Thanks. And I would also, for Diane, going back to quick tips about how to do that. Our first hangout was on defining your market and building your list, and I think that's a really great starting point. With a lot of information about marketing and kind of getting started doing that. So I would refer to our first hangout for more tips. All right, so we have time for just a couple more questions. Here's another one that came in from YouTube from another John. He says, I shoot both studio still life and location available light. Do I need to choose one or the other? I believe my vision is the same for both. So he's saying he shoots studio still life and location available light, and does he need to choose between the two?
Well, it's really your vision. Light on is one part of your vision, right? Light is a tool that photographers use, and it's how they use that tool. So that's the beauty of the tear sheet assignment, because part of what you'll see in that assignment is how you use light, images that reflect that. There's no way to answer that question right now, except to say that light is one of the qualities that's wrapped up inside of the vision that you have, and that the tear sheet assignment very clearly points out what the vision is, including how you handle light. So it's not just about the light piece.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's see. I think we have time for just one more question, unfortunately. So let's take this one from Mary G. What do agents think about the new selling paradigm? So it's a toss-up. Whoever wants to.
Go ahead, Jen.
I'll start, and you can kick in. Agents are the same feeling for an agent is the same feeling for an art producer, is the same feeling for a photo editor. The more an agent is selling to art producers, photo editors, and direct to client. And so if we're hearing, like I shared, Shannon's feelings, agents are immersed in with creatives on a day-to-day basis. And part of even building a roster as an agent is to have different types of photographers or illustrators that have unique visions so they can sell that vision to the clients. So agents are very supportive of this process. They're very supportive of personal work. They're very supportive of having a vision. It only helps sell their artists stronger, and it only helps them stand out and be remembered as talent that they want to work with.
There's no doubt about that. You know, agents, every photographer wants an agent. And the majority of the photographers out there won't have agents, probably because they shouldn't have agents. They don't really need agents, although everybody would love to have people help them to negotiate and do their work. But the bottom line is agents are always looking for photographers who have defined their vision. I can look at a client of mine, Nick Thomas, who came to me for this type of portfolio build, and it wasn't until he built a body of work around his vision that he could even think about looking for an agent. Dan Root had a portfolio, and after the process had a body of work, and a year later went to look for an agent and got an agent because it was so she could see his vision. And I worked with her, and she says to me many times, she said, it's a pleasure because I didn't have to come in and mold him. It was his vision was there. So Jen's totally right on. This is the tool to attract an agent. And you really won't be able to attract one until you have a body of work, whether you use this process or not. Until you have a body of work that's built around your vision, an agent's not going to be interested.
Excellent, excellent answers. Well, we're running short on time, unfortunately. So I think I'm gonna have to call this. I want to thank everybody out there who's watching, either if you're watching live or if you are watching the recorded version on YouTube. I also want to give a special huge thanks to Jen Kilberg and Selina Maitreya for taking the time to sit down and talk with us about this new paradigm. You know, it sounds like a game changer that every photographer is going to want to know about. So thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure. Absolutely happy to be here.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Agency Access. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Agency_Access, and obviously we're on Google+, because that's what we're on right now. So until next time, we are Agency Access. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.